So as we try to manage forests responsibly, one thing that's really important is that we understand how they work. So a traditional understanding of forests is it's a place with a bunch of trees, but we can also sort of broaden that definition to sort of reimagine what forests are. So forests are ecosystems that are dominated by trees, and trees are a really important part of that system, but they're also this massive volume of life. So there are all these different organisms. They're plants and fungi, larger wildlife like moose and black bear. They're trees and all this other stuff that in a lot of ways is like a coral reef. Trees are like the coral in the coral reef. They're a living structure that defines that system, and that really is what everything else in the system is built around. But we would never think about a coral reef just as coral. We would think about it as this huge volume of life. So all the other stuff that's built around that structure. Forests are in many ways defined by their diversity, their ability to support all this different stuff, many different species of trees, many different forms of life. In a handful of forest soil, there could be literally millions of organisms of thousands of different species, from tiny little insects, microbes, nematodes, to bigger stuff like invertebrates, bugs. As forests age, they often become more diverse. So not just more different species contained within that system, but also different sizes and ages of trees. They build what we call complexity, which is all these different kinds of diversity sort of layered together. As we build a reimagined understanding of forests, we can understand that diversity is not just important because it's this really cool part of forests, but also it's what makes forests work. So all those organisms, those parts of forests that are not as obvious as the trees, are performing really important functions, from turning wood and plant material into soil, to stabilizing nutrients, to helping trees take up nutrients from the soil. Diversity makes forests work. The other word that's encompassed in this objective is resilience. So I mentioned that forests are dynamic, right? They're always changing, and within a forest, death is this really important, profound, and beautiful process that actually supports all these really important habitats for all these different species. Forests are defined by not their ability to resist change, their ability to be what we might call stable, but by their ability to be resilient, to stay healthy while they change. Now we know that forests are naturally resilient, but also today there are a lot more factors that are threatening forests' ability to be resilient. So changing climate, invasive exotic plants, pests, pathogens, animals, pollution, forest development and fragmentation, all these things that are compounded into this big mass of stressors that we call global change. And so as we manage our forests, we need to do everything we can to make them more resilient. Now, how do we make them more resilient? Aside from addressing forest health threats, in the case of the Milton Town Forest, this will be dealing with stuff like deer overpopulations, invasive exotic plants, earthworm infestation problem, and just the effects of human land use throughout the history of this forest, but also by encouraging diversity. Diversity is how these forests sort of have more tools in their toolkit to deal with whatever form that stressors might take. And so at every step of everything we do, we are trying to encourage as much diversity as possible in the Milton Town Forest.